Hey guys, Chase again. I wanted to do a series of videos before the midterms happen on next Tuesday, about less than a week out now, about each state. I'm going to try to go through as many states as I can within reason. There's going to be probably some states we leave off because the elections just aren't competitive. But I want to start with a state, my home state, and that is Florida. Now, mind my amazing drawing of the state, but this is a state that has two huge races that could decide control of the Senate, and obviously the governorship is also one that's very divisive and on a pretty hot race to be covering right now. There's a few House races as well that might help Democrats get the majority. My overall feelings right now is it's kind of a weird election. I've never seen an election kind of split up like this. I think it's really more based on geography than anything, but I still have never seen an election where it looks like Democrats are going to overwhelmingly win the House and Republicans could actually gain in the Senate. So Republicans will not only control and keep control of the Senate, but also gain a seat, possibly more than that. But the House right now looks like it's going to be overwhelmingly Democratic. That could change, and I think I'm more likely to put money on the Dems winning the House than Republicans actually gaining something in the Senate. Just based on what's happening right now. It doesn't really surprise me that the geography in the Senate favors Republicans overwhelmingly, and it's just the way our elections in our country is right now. Super polarized, things are split up more than they've ever been, and it all leads to having a split election like this. Something I haven't seen in all the years I've been watching. It's an interesting election for sure. But getting down to it, let's talk about Florida. Florida has two races, obviously, that come to mind, with Bill Nelson trying to retain his seat in the U.S. Senate against former governor, sitting governor right now, Rick Scott. And then over in the governorship, to succeed Rick Scott, you've got Andrew Gillum, the former mayor of Tallahassee, and former Congressman Ron DeSantis. Right now, Nate Silver at 538, who I've continued to trust throughout elections the last few years, even though obviously nobody got 2016 right, but he seems to have probably the most authoritative and kind of comprehensive projections out there. Has right now DeSantis trailing Gillum 51 to 46 based on his averages of high and low numbers, and then over in the Senate, Nelson's leading Rick Scott by 52 to 48. Obviously, those numbers are not ingrained in stone. Things can change. Things can change in a day, much less a week. So that could change very rapidly within that. I would probably start to say I'd put money on Andrew Gillum probably being able to win in the governorship. With the Senate one, I have absolutely no idea how that's all going to work out, because I feel like that could go all the way down to the wire. I'm a bit surprised. It is a blue year, and Florida seems to be a little more blue this year. I've always thought that Florida, especially with what happened in 2016, is still a very conservative state. Its state legislatures have been dominated by Republicans for years. It really takes a presidential election for the Democrats to come out in Florida and win the state. Obama did it, I think, twice, I believe. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I think maybe Romney. Obviously, he won in 2008. I'm not 100% sure if Obama was able to carry the state in 2012. Maybe Romney was able to pick it up there. But obviously, last election in 2016, Trump was able to win the state very comfortably, actually. I think the actual results that came down, I think if I have the actual numbers here, it wasn't comfortable, but Trump won by over 120,000 votes, so it wasn't a stressed. It was still close, so we'll give it that. We'll give Hillary that, but most of the state was red, and that's why I want to break down. I want to see where Nelson and where Gillum have to run up the score, and where does DeSantis and Scott need to run up the score to try to win their respective elections. If we know anything about the geography of Florida, there's pretty much, few central population centers right now. Obviously, the biggest one is going to be this Miami area right here. Talking about Miami-Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach. All three of those counties went to Hillary Clinton in 2016. Miami-Dade and Broward, obviously the two more particularly, are going to be the ones where Gillum and Nelson are going to have to run up the score big time. Numbers in 2016 for the presidential election, which is one. I'm going to reference the 2016 election for the most part, because I believe it's the most comparable election. Hillary was able to win the county, but also win the county with over 500,000 votes. Obviously, that's not going to happen because there's not a presidential election happening right now. It's a midterm, so you're probably going to see that number start to obviously be a lot further down. Turnout's not as high in midterm elections, as we all know. Your basic political science, just common sense. But Broward, with having over 500,000 votes for Clinton, and then also you talk about Miami-Dade, and she also is able to eclipse that with over 600,000 votes. So obviously those are going to be the two most important counties really in the whole state, if you think about it, running up the score. Now we're going to talk about bellwether counties, but Gillum is more of a base candidate, so he's going to need those counties to come out big time for him. Now the Latino population, I was able to look at some exit polls that CNN was able to conduct. Who was the most excited or fired up about this election? They had 70% down for Latinos. That's amazing. That's a surprising number. You'd think it'd be other ethnicities or other groups, but you talk about women, or you talk about other groups. But Latinos are fired up about this election. That might have something to do with immigration policy. Might have something to do with migrant caravan that's careening toward the border. A lot of those things could be playing into it. But huge population centers for Latinos is in Miami-Dade County. So that's going to be something, especially a huge Cuban population. So that's going to be really something to watch out for, and I would think that that's going to favor Democrats especially. So if you see the numbers pump up for Gillum and Nelson, I think you'll really have a good chance that Democrats will have a good chance of holding on to the leads that it looks like they have right now and maybe running up the score even more there. For Republicans, let's counter over to them. Now, obviously, every other rural area in the state is going to be where Republicans are going to have to piece together a coalition of voters, all the states in between. So most of the population center in here, actually I need to put Orlando right here real quick. Handwriting's terrible, I know, but Orlando needs to be right here in the middle because it's Orange County. Volusia is more on the beach where Daytona Beach is, but Seminole County, Volusia, Orange, those are going to be the bigger counties for Democrats. Now the counties that Hillary won were Orange County and Osceola. Osceola being kind of a smaller county, but being Orlando suburbs. So Orlando being more of a tourist city, more of an international city, more of a diverse ethnicity-wise, you're probably going to have a favor toward Democrats there. Now, every other county other than maybe, Alachua, Gainesville is actually right around here. But every other county up there is a sea of red when it comes to major elections, and that's really where DeSantis and Rick Scott are going to have to piece together voters in each of those respectable counties throughout the state. Now, you'd think maybe you could look at other counties, maybe Jacksonville, but actually up there in Duval, it was close, but Trump won there. So if you think about it, if DeSantis or Scott can win Duval, that might be a sign that things are going okay. Things are going well. There's a naval base up there, I believe. The Space Coast itself all went to Trump. The Space Coast is all the way down here. Cape Canaveral, St. Augustine is along the coast here, and you make your way down. You're talking about counties like St. John's and Flagler, where Flagler College is, Volusia. It went to Trump. Went to Trump actually pretty healthy margin. That's Daytona Beach. That's a beach community, a big beach community there. You would think it may be favored toward Democrats, but Trump actually did well up in that county. So if you start to see some of these Space Coast counties or even Duval turn to Democrats, it might be a long night for DeSantis and Rick Scott. So actually, the other couple of counties, most of North Florida here is going to be all Republican. All Republican. There really isn't a question there. You're talking about Alabama border, like Santa Rosa, Escambia. There's not a lot of voters here, but all these counties. That's why Republicans have opportunities in these big, diverse urban states, is because they've got counties like Walton County and Washington County, Jackson County. Not a lot of voters, but Trump runs up the score. He wins by 8,000 voters. He wins by 40%. So you've got all these counties where you start to build those together, and it gives Republicans an opportunity to make up the score, and hope that they can run even where it most counts. Now, before we get down to the area of the state where I think is most important, most crucial in every election that takes place in this state, you also talk about Leon County, and actually Gadsden County went to Hillary Clinton as well, but Leon County is Tallahassee. Now, obviously this is going to be, the cream of the crop for Andrew Gillum, the former mayor of Tallahassee. He has been backing up his claims with a strong record on crime and jobs and all of that. Whatever way you lean, he's been pushing his agenda, and Tallahassee and Leon County are probably going to back him in that. So all this Sea of Red is probably going to be taken up by maybe a county or two up on the North Florida, Georgia border. Maybe a couple of counties will go to Gillum, and maybe even Nelson. I would think Nelson probably rides those coattails as well, and because governor is listed first on the ballot. So you're thinking, I believe governor's listed first on the ballot. Could be the other way around, but if it is Gillum, you'd go Gillum-Nelson, or Nelson-Gillum, whatever the case may be. I would think Nelson would probably benefit as well, but you would think Gillum would win that county without any question. Be a shock if he didn't. Hillary won the county by 40,000 votes in 2016. I would think maybe could be that gap, maybe more, in a governor's election. Now, getting down to the nitty-gritty is the area in the middle of the state, what we call the I-4 corridor. Now, it's I-4 stretching from Pinellas County all the way up through the center part of the state, kind of a slant through counties like Pinellas, Hillsborough, obviously Orlando with Orange County, up to Volusia and the Daytona Beach area. Now, this is the bellwether part of the state. When you talk about bellwether, you talk about the part of the state where you can get an idea of what's going to happen come election time in terms of what are the counties that give us an idea of where the votes are going, whether or not Trump's winning this county or Clinton's winning this county. Kind of gave us an idea of how the election was leaning in the whole state. Now, you could have numbers run up in certain counties that were more base counties, like for Gillum and Nelson. You'd look at Broward and Miami-Dade and think, okay, well, yeah, it'd be an extra bonus if they could run up, and really get some high turnout and then run up the score. But I don't think that's going to be the determining factor. Or, DeSantis and Scott can run up the score on all these small rural counties, and, yeah, that'd be a bonus. But where it's really going to count, I believe, is where the bellwether counties are, and that's the swing counties. That's the counties that always seem to be either or. They always seem to flip, or they seem to go 50-50, really tight. So last time around, we talk about counties like Pinellas County, actually my home county. Trump wins the county by 1%. Now you're talking a few thousand votes, 5,000 votes separated these two. So this gives you an idea, like if Trump's winning here, then he's probably doing well across the state. Now Hillsborough actually went to Hillary Clinton. It's gone Republican before. And she actually won this county by a decent margin. So it's kind of surprising that Trump loses this county. He lost by about 30,000 votes. I'm sorry, 40,000 votes. So you keep going up. Talk about Polk County, that's more rural. We think Trump's going to win there without any problem. Talk about Orange County, that's a Democratic county. But you talk about Seminole, that was close. This is a smaller county, but very close. Trump wins by 4,000 votes. That's super thin. That's a razor-thin margin, and it just seems to be another county that always seems to either go either or. Now, Volusia County, which was surprising to me, ends up going to Trump. Seminole County, we talked about that. Brevard went to Trump pretty easily, but these counties in particular just seems to be, like Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Volusia, Seminole. Orange County has been tighter in the past, but it seems like every passing year, you would think Clinton, not Clinton, but Democrats in general win that county without any problem. But I would say look to particularly Pinellas and Hillsborough. They seem to be a mix of Tampa, obviously Tampa, St. Pete, and Clearwater, the bigger cities in that area. But they just seem to be more, obviously, diverse, but also having a huge homegrown population and a big senior citizen community who tend to vote more conservatively. So you've got a mix, a very interesting mix. Baby boomers in this area. This is my home, my home area, and it just seems to be an area to really keep an eye on. Now we had a split last time, so we had to look elsewhere to see where the votes were coming. But in those particular counties, I would pay attention if DeSantis can win Pinellas, and if he can run even in Hillsborough, then I think he has a good chance at possibly putting together the votes to make an upset. Or Scott, obviously, I think being the stronger of the two candidates between him and DeSantis, if he can win Pinellas and even possibly win Hillsborough, which is a possibility there, then I think maybe you got a good chance of Scott winning the state. Obviously, you need to look elsewhere, but those are the bellwether counties to me. And I think also keep an eye on a smaller county like Seminole County. And then see, in Orange, obviously, is a Democratic county, but see if it's a tighter gap than the 120,000 vote gap that you see in that election. Orange has been a closer election or a closer county in the past. But that I-4 corridor here, this I-4 corridor really needs to be looked at because North Florida has always been Democratic or Republican, and South Florida, especially those particular counties, in Miami-Dade and Broward, those seem to be obviously just Democratic strongholds in general. So, like I said before, referred back to that is yes, it's great to see bigger turnout for those candidates, but they have to piece together votes from everywhere else too, in bigger counties like Pinellas, like Hillsborough, like Orange, for them to get, obviously, to get to the win. So that's going to be an interesting how that plays out. My particular vibe this year, it does seem to be a Democratic year. That could change. I do think that there are GOP voters that are motivated, that are fired up about Kavanaugh, maybe about this immigration issue with the caravan, with the way Donald Trump's been treated throughout the first 2 years of his presidency. That could motivate voters, GOP voters, conservative voters, to get out to the polls. But I do think Democrats have a lot of motivation. Obviously, they don't think what Trump's doing and his demeanor and his policy has been according to their preference. With the issues that are happening right now, obviously Kavanaugh might upset a lot of women. Women could be motivated there. Latinos, as we talked about before, and as exit polls seem to be fired up, possibly about immigration policy. So it just seems like Democrats it's leaning toward them, and especially a state like Florida, which has become a big swing state in presidential elections. I think that's also something to keep an eye on, is how does Florida move in 2018, and how does that give us a bit of an early preview going forward for 2020? Because obviously Florida is going to continue to play a huge role. It's the third most populous state in the country, and it's a big state in terms of electoral votes. You win Florida, you have a really good chance at winning the presidential elections. So Florida is always something to keep an eye on. You can build a coalition of other states if you lose Florida, but you'd rather have Florida in your pocket than not have it. So that's all I have to say about that. My gut feeling is I think that I look at Gillum probably winning the governor's race. Oop, there goes the board. Gillum winning the governor's race. And then I think Scott squeaks out the Senate election. I just think Scott is obviously being the current governor. I think he's being a little underrated in the polling. I think people respected the way that he handled the recent hurricane that went through North Florida, and I think he has a really good chance at upsetting the incumbent Bill Nelson, who is kind of not overstayed his welcome, but has been around for a while now, and just being from this state, you never really hear from Bill Nelson until it comes time for elections. So he's not really somebody who's going to make a lot of noise, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that senators that just stay out of the limelight are not a decent senator, but at the same time that does tend to have an issue when it comes to elections. When you've never heard of your own incumbent, there seems to be it could be a problem in terms of getting out the vote and having motivated Democratic voters to come out and vote for you. Well, it could happen that it's just a blue wave and they just vote down the party line, that Nelson benefits from that or from this environment and can ride that to a victory. So that's all I have to say about the governor's race and the senator race. The House races, it's going to be an interesting election night for House races. Again, like I said before, on the face of it, in general, I think Democrats are going to have a really good night. I think they'll probably win back control of the House rather easily. Right now, I believe Silver has them winning about 39 seats. I think they need about 23 or 4 to win control of the House. So that's not a lot. It's not, it could be, I don't think it's going to be crazy like a 50-seat. But I think, if at all, I don't think it's going to dip below 30. I think Democrats are going to win a fair number of House seats. I would be really surprised, and it would be a major disappointment. Even if they win control back of the House, them not to win more than 30 seats, I think would be a major disappointment for Democrats, because this is an opportunity that they really cannot let go to waste here. So the House races in Florida in particular that we look at, I'm looking at Florida 6, Florida 15, 16, 18, Florida 25, 26, 27. Obviously, a lot of numbers there, but if you go and look up these respective races, again, I would probably recommend 538 and Nate Silver doing a great job at projecting even House races. Had a lot of House polls this year, which hasn't really happened in the past, or maybe I've just not been in tune with that, because it's really helped us get an idea and to form projections in general. It's hard to form projections with House races because there's such a microcosm of a state. You can look at the past incumbents' performances with their elections, the demographics of the district, voter turnout, voter population in terms of disparity between Republicans and Democrats. But when it comes down to polling, it's been minute in certain areas. And Silver actually came out with an article today about red districts. I mean, how red are they? Do we know how conservative these districts are? Because there's a lack of polling. So you have no idea. They could be ripe to be pried away from Republicans and upset by Democrats. So I'm tending to think that if anything's going to happen, Democrats are going to have a bigger night in the House than having a less night, or having a down night in the House. I would tend to think that Democrats will overperform rather than underperform in the House in regards to the House. Now, a couple of these are toss-ups. Florida 15 and 26. Keep an eye on those as, again, another idea of where the state's going to head. Could have a nice inflection on what's happening with the governor's race and the Senate race, the races up the ticket. That could give you another bellwether. We all look for little signs throughout the night, early on as the results start to pour in, how things are going in terms of turnout, in terms of exit polling can give you an idea. But we looked at the exit polling in 2016, and it kind of threw us off because it looked like it was going to be a big night for Hillary Clinton, and it was not. So that would be weary of the exit polling. It can give you a nice snapshot, can give you an early sign how things can go throughout the election night. But I would be very cautious in believing that that's going to be the telltale sign of how things are going to end up going. This is one state. I want to go through a number of different states. Obviously, I'm going to try to focus on states that have maybe one or both of the big ticket races and possibly some House races to throw in there to cover. I think there's some states out there with some good elections that are interesting, and I will definitely try to make a more state-by-state breakdown as we get closer to the election. I think I'm also thinking about doing a live stream on election night, covering the results and doing my analysis and take on how things are going for both parties as the results start to pour in. But don't forget to vote. Get out there on November 6th, or if your state allows early voting, get out there, get it done beforehand, And then on election night, tune in and let's see how it goes. It's going to be an interesting election. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.